Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's PM Modi returns home after successful visit to Italy, participates in outreach session of G7 summit on artificial intelligence, energy, Africa and the Mediterranean. Peace summit for Ukraine to kickstart in Switzerland. Leaders from several countries will be attending two-day conference to discuss Kyiv's peace plan. In sports, Rohit Sharma led India to lock horns with Canada in their final group stage match of T20 Cricket World Cup. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has landed in New Delhi after a productive day at G7 summit in Italy. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi in a social media post said, and I quote, "Had a very productive day at the G7 summit in Apulia, interacted with world leaders and discussed various subjects. Together, we aim to create impactful solutions that benefit the global community and create a better world for future generations. I thank the people and government of Italy for their warm hospitality." Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the outreach session on artificial intelligence, energy, Africa and the Mediterranean at the G7 summit in Apulia, Italy on Friday. Prime Minister expressed that it was a matter of great satisfaction for him to be attending the summit after his re-election in the largest democratic exercise in the history of humankind. He expressed that for technology to be successful, it had to be underpinned by a human-centric approach. In this context, he shared India's success in leveraging digital technology for public service delivery. Talking of India's AI mission premised on all AI for all, Prime Minister emphasized that this technology should be aimed at fostering progress and well-being of all. He also underlined that with this broader objective, India was fostering international collaboration as a founding member of Global Partnership for AI. Prime Minister also elaborated on India's energy transition pathway, noting that its approach was based on availability, accessibility, affordability and acceptability. He mentioned that India was working towards achieving the target of net zero by 2070. Alluding to India's mission life, he called upon the global community to join the tree plantation campaign launched by him on World Environment Day, Plant for Mother. Prime Minister called for giving priority to the concerns of the global south, in particular Africa. He recalled that it was a matter of honor for India that AU was admitted as a permanent member of the G20 under its presidency. Later, leaders from the world at the Outreach Nation session of the G7 summit posed for the family photo. During his visit to Italy, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday met a host of world leaders on the sidelines of G7 summit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met US President Joe Biden. Both the leaders committed to keep working together to further global good. Prime Minister Modi also met his Italian counterpart Giorgia Meloni. The two leaders noted with satisfaction the regular higher political dialogue and reviewed progress of the India-Italy strategic partnership. They also discussed important regional and global issues and agreed to strengthen cooperation in global fora and multilateral initiatives, including the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor. Aimed at bolstering industrial competitiveness and economic ties, PM Modi met his Japanese counterpart Fumio Kishida on the sidelines of G7 summit. The two leaders reaffirmed their commitment to the Indo-Japan Special Strategic and Global Partnership and discussed expanding cooperation across various sectors, including the landmark Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project and Japan's planned 5 trillion yen investment in India from 2022 to 2027. PM Modi met German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and recalled India-German strategic partnership, which plays a major role in furthering global growth, which is inclusive and sustainable. PM Modi and Brazil President met on the sidelines of G7 summit. Brazil is the current chair of the G20, while India was the previous one. PM Modi offered best wishes to French President Macron for hosting upcoming Paris Olympics 2024. Both the leaders discussed a wide range of topics like increasing partnership in key areas of defense, AI, critical technology and space. Mentioning dialogue and diplomacy amid Russian invasion, PM Modi held a bilateral meeting with the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Italy. PM Modi talked about peace with President Zelensky and said that regarding the ongoing hostilities, reiterated that India believes in a human-centric approach and believes that the way to peace is through dialogue and diplomacy. Enhancing India-UK cooperation, Indian Prime Minister Modi and UK PM Rishi Sunak talked about India-UK comprehensive strategic partnership, enhancing industrial cooperation in defence sector, boosting trade and commerce, among others. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Pope Francis at the sidelines and hugged him as well. While praising the Pope's commitment to serve people, PM Modi said, "I admire his commitment to serve people and make our planet better." Also invited him to visit India. Pope Francis joined on Friday the outreach session of the G7 Leaders Summit in Borgo Egnazia in the southern Italian region of Puglia to lead discussions on artificial intelligence. It's the first time in history that a pontiff has taken part in meeting in a group of 7 democracies, comprises of Britain, Canada, Germany, France, Italy, Japan, the United States and the European Union. Speaking at the G7 outreach session on artificial intelligence, Pope Francis said that humans must not lose control of artificial intelligence.
We need to guarantee and protect a space for meaningful human control over the process of choosing artificial intelligence programs. Human dignity itself depends on it. Precisely on this issue, let me insist. In a drama such as armed conflicts, it is urgent to rethink the development and use of devices such as so-called lethal autonomous weapons in order to ban their use, starting already with a proactive and concrete effort to introduce more and more meaningful human control. No machine should ever choose whether to take the life of a human being.
The leaders of the Group of 7 issued a communique called the Apulia G7 Leaders Communique after G7 Summit in Italy. The leaders reiterated their support for Ukraine, stepping up a support to African countries and commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific based on the rule of law. Leader reiterated unwavering support for Ukraine by continuing providing military, budget, humanitarian and reconstruction support to Ukraine and its people. They reiterated condemnation of the brutal terrorist attacks conducted by Hamas and other terrorist groups against Israel on October 7, 2023. The leaders committed to stepping up support to African countries in efforts to achieve sustainable development and local value creation, strengthen democratic governance, contribute to global stability and prosperity, and protect the rule-based international order. They also reiterate commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific based on the rule of law, which is inclusive, prosperous and secure, grounded on sovereignty, territorial integrity, peaceful resolution of disputes, fundamental freedoms and human rights. The leaders reiterated determination to address the triple global crisis of climate change, pollution and biodiversity loss. The G7 has expressed deep concern over China's industrial policy at the end of a summit in the south of Italy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi joined G7 leaders for talks on Friday. That's after they clinched a deal on issuing a $50 billion loan to Ukraine using frozen Russian assets on the opening day. From the Italian city of Bari, DD India's Giles Gibson takes a look at the key takeaways from the group's joint statement.
Heading into this G7 summit, both the US and the European Union issued new tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, and now the G7 as a whole is warning about its concerns about China's, quotes, harmful overcapacity and the impact on their economies of cheaper imports coming from China. Now, the G7 are insisting in this joint statement that they're not trying to hold back China's economic development, but Beijing is almost certain to respond in the same way that it did to those new tariffs on Chinese EVs, accusing the members of the G7 of, quotes, protectionism. When it comes to the conflict in Gaza, we saw in this joint statement the G7 leaders saying that they are united in supporting the US proposals for a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. Meanwhile, joining Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the outreach sessions on day 2 of this summit was Pope Francis, who made the trip down from the Vatican to warn about the risks of artificial intelligence. The Pope, of course, in the past has been a victim of so-called deepfake images showing him wearing a papal puffer jacket, those images fooling many social media users around the world. And finally, in this joint statement from the G7, there is a pledge on something that is a really important piece of the host Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's domestic agenda. The G7 are now launching a coalition to pool their resources to crack down on illegal smuggling groups bringing migrants across different seas, such as the Mediterranean Sea. Giles Gibson in Bari reporting for DD India.
Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni on Saturday shared a video with India's Prime Minister Modi on X recorded during the G7 summit held in Italy's Apulia. PM Modi also retweeted this video on his X handle.
Hello from the Melody team. Hello from the Melody team. Hello from the Melody team. Hello from the Melody team.
And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. 18th edition of Mumbai International Film Festival for short films, documentary and animation films gears up for its grand inauguration today. Gujarat's Smritivan Earthquake Memorial Museum in Bhuj joins UNESCO's most beautiful museums list.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds, we get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington DC.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Fast-track deportations of migrants caught crossing the US-Mexico border illegally more than doubled in the past week after new Biden administration policy made it harder for them to request asylum. A visit to a migrant processing facility in the desert northeast of El Paso revealed that most arrivals faced expedited removal as they did not meet the new requirement to express fear of returning to their country. The sprawling complex, one of 11 such facilities along the border, has allowed the administration greater ability to process and deport people. El Paso Sector Border Patrol Chief Agent Anthony Good mentioned a deterrence effect resulting from expedited removals.
If you do come into the country illegally between ports of entry, you will be processed accordingly and put for removal proceedings and removed from the United States and returned to your country of origin. In this area, the Santa Teresa area, we see the migrant or the person that makes illegal entry to avoid apprehension, avoid detection. In the Texas side, in the El Paso station, exactly, we see more of the migrants that are trying to claim asylum.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has been re-elected for a second term as part of unity agreement between Democratic Alliance Party and African National Congress. It is major change for the country after 30 years of ANC rule. Ramaphosa got 283 votes versus 44 for Julius Malema, who is the leader of the opposition Economic Freedom Fighters Party. The deal between two sharply antagonistic parties is the most momentous political shift in South Africa since Nelson Mandela led the ANC to victory in the 1994 election that marked the end of apartheid. The ANC lost its majority for the first time in election on May 29 and spent 2 weeks in talks with other parties. Long seen as unbeatable in national elections, the ANC lost support in recent years as voters varied off persistently high levels of poverty, inequality and crime, rolling power cuts and corruption in party ranks. Switzerland hosts Peace Summit on June 15 and 16 in support of Ukrainian President Zelensky's peace proposals. US Vice President Kamala Harris, French President Emmanuel Macron and the leaders of Germany, Italy, Britain, Canada and Japan are among those set to attend the Peace Summit. Turkey and Hungary, which similarly maintain cordial ties with Russia, will be represented by their foreign ministers. But despite months of intense Ukrainian and Swiss lobbying, some others will not be there. Most notably China, a key consumer of Russian oil and supplier of goods that help Moscow maintain its manufacturing base. Moscow, which has not been invited in the conference, has called the gathering futile. Russia has denounced the meeting and said that countries had been pushed to choose sides. Russian President Putin has also set out conditions for peace talks with Ukraine.
The conditions are very simple. Ukrainian troops must be completely withdrawn from the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions, and I draw your attention from the entire territory of these regions, within the administrative borders that existed at the time of their entry into Ukraine. As soon as Kiev declares that it is ready for such a decision and begins the actual withdrawal of troops from these regions, as well as officially notifies that they abandon plans to join NATO, an order to cease fire and begin negotiations will immediately follow from our side, literally at the same minute.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says Russia would cease fire and start talks if Ukrainian forces withdraw from 4 regions Moscow claimed as its own. Russia also wants Kyiv to drop its NATO ambition. Ukraine and the West dismissed these conditions, with NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg on Friday calling Putin's initiative a proposal for more aggression, more occupation. DD India's Dasha Cherneshova has more from Moscow.
Moscow warned that the responsibility for continued bloodshed in Ukraine lies with Kyiv and the West, as Russian President Vladimir Putin's ceasefire offer has been rejected. On Friday, Putin said Russia would be ready to order a ceasefire in Ukraine and enter negotiations with Ukraine if Kyiv withdrew its troops from 4 regions that Moscow now claims as its own: Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republics, as well as Zaporizhia and Kherson regions. Ukraine should also drop its aspirations to join NATO. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky called Putin's proposal an ultimatum which cannot be trusted. Moscow, however, says it is a real chance for peace. Until now, Moscow has insisted that any negotiations should take into account present-day realities. Putin explained that Moscow doesn't want to freeze the conflict, but instead to find a lasting solution. The proposal came as G7 leaders were meeting in Italy and ahead of the Ukrainian Peace Conference due in Switzerland. Moscow said it would be impossible to reach a peaceful solution on Ukraine and overall on global European security without Russia. Dasha Cherneshova in Moscow, reporting for DD India.
And let's see what's happening around the world. Beaches on Singapore's Sentosa Island were closed on Saturday after an oil spill spread from a nearby shipping terminal to the tourist hotspot. An advisory from Sentosa said the waters of Tanjong, Palawan and Siloso beaches would be closed for cleaning and swimming. Sea activities have been prohibited. Honduras on Friday rolled out a slate of measures intended to cut down on organized crime. President Xiomara Castro said security forces should be deployed to urgently execute interventions across parts of country with the highest incidences of gang crimes, such as murders of hire, drug and firearm trafficking, extortion, kidnapping and money laundering. A group of volunteer firefighters in Brazil were seen battling blazes on Friday as fires continue to engulf the Pantanal wetlands. Satellite data showed that the Pantanal fires have surged almost tenfold so far this year, raising alarms among the locals. Muslim pilgrims set off at dawn on Saturday to mark Arafah, the most important day of Hajj pilgrimage ahead of Eid al-Adha on Sunday. Worshippers walked along the streets of Saudi Arabia's Arafat and climbed the Mount of Mercy at sunrise, where Prophet Muhammad is believed to have delivered his final sermon 14 centuries ago. And a tempo traveller carrying more than a dozen passengers fell into a gorge at the Alaknanda River in the Rudraprayag district of North Indian state of Uttarakhand on Saturday. At least 7 bodies have been recovered and 9 people were rushed to the hospital. Police officials and disaster management teams are carrying out relief and rescue operations. Uttarakhand's Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami has expressed his condolences over the incident. Well, now all the updates on 18th edition of Mumbai International Film Festival. Anticipation mounts as the 18th edition of Mumbai International Film Festival for short films, documentary and animation films gear up for its grand inauguration today, marking the commencement of a cinematic celebration that promises to captive audiences and industry professionals alike. Over the next week, Fest will have 314 films to 59 countries in 61 languages, 8 world premieres, 5 international premieres, 18 Asia premieres and 21 India premieres. Around 60 countries are participating through their films and other kind of engagements in the Film Fest. Opening ceremony of the Mumbai Film Festival will showcase FTII student short film Sunflowers were the first ones to know which won laurels at the 77th Cannes Film Festival this year. And in a remarkable achievement, the Smritivan Earthquake Memorial Museum in Bhuj, Kutch district has been awarded the 3rd spot in UNESCO's prestigious recognizing it as one of the world's 7 most beautiful museums. Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel celebrated this significant accomplishment, calling it a proud moment for both Gujarat and India. The Smritivan Earthquake Memorial Museum secured the 3rd spot on the prestigious list. Inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on August 28, 2022, the Smritivan Earthquake Memorial Museum commemorates the lives lost during the devastating earthquake in 2001. According to the museum's official website, the facility spans 11,500 square meters and is divided into 7 thematic blocks: rebirth, rediscover, restore, rebuild, rethink, relieve and renew, each representing a different aspect of the museum's mission. And India is scheduled to face Canada in their final Group A encounter of the ICC T20 World Cup at the Central Broward Regional Park Stadium in Florida. With India already through to its Super 8 stage, all eyes will be on star batter Virat Kohli. India's management will hope that the trip from New York to Florida brings a turnaround in his fortunes. And my colleague Tapas Bhattacharya joins us from Florida. Tapas, is there forecast for rain during the match? Can you give us some updates?
Right, so Florida has been battered by a tropical disturbance in the last few days. In fact, in the last 80 years, they haven't seen such kind of rainfall activity for the period of 3 or more days. if we spoke to some of the people out here, they said that this is a bit of a freak show out here. It never happened. They said that it happened 1 day or 2 days, but for a period of 3-4 days, this kind of rainfall activity never took place. The weather prediction says that there will be some sort of a rainfall activity for the match against India and Canada. The match against USA and Ireland was washed out because of the rainfall activity. It took almost 40 minutes of torrential rain to wash out the whole match, because the outfield is quite wet. Still, the team, the ground staff has been working overtime to dry that out, but that didn't work out in the match against USA and Ireland. For the match with India and Canada, the ground staff have been working hard. They're making sure that they cover the pitch and the outfield quite well, so that the rainfall and the rain actually don't percolate down inside. But what I can tell you is that there is a rain prediction for tomorrow as well, although it is as low as 25%. But looking at the weather condition, looking at the way rainfall took place in the last few days, we believe that rain might again hamper the match with India and Ireland. So although this particular match is of little consequence for both the teams, India has already qualified for the Super 8 and Canada is out of the Super 8 contention. But for India, it's a huge, they would like to play this match. They want to test their bench strength and take the confidence to West Indies, where they will start their first match in Barbados. So they want to get into the form, but rain prediction is still there. The weather is not looking that great, though as we spoke, the Met Department believes that unlike the last 4-5 days, the rainfall chances on Saturday is as low as almost 20 to 25%.
All right, Tapas, thank you so much for all these updates. And now to all the updates on the International Yoga Day, which will be celebrated on 21st of June. In 6 days from now, the world will mark 10th International Day of Yoga, celebrating a timeless practice that celebrates oneness and harmony. India's PM Modi shared a video on his X handle that offers guidance of Ardha Chakrasana, asanas and their benefits.
Ardha Chakra Asana. While doing this asana, the posture of your body is like a half chakra or like a half wheel posture. To do this asana, first stand in a straight position and place both your hands on the waist to give it support. Take care that all your fingers are joined together, which then will give proper support to your waist. Now, take a deep breath in and slowly bend backwards from your lumbar region. Bend your head backwards to the point till it stretches your neck muscles. Breathe in and out normally. Stay still in this posture for about 10 to 30 seconds. Ardha Chakra Asana makes your spine flexible. It strengthens your spinal nerves. This asana improves your ability to breathe. It also reduces pain caused by cervical spondylitis. People suffering from hypertension or high BP should be careful when bending backwards. You should refrain from doing this asana if suffering from vertigo. After staying in this posture for 10 to 30 seconds, take a deep breath in and slowly straighten your spine while still supporting it at the waist with your hands. Now bring your head back into normal position while breathing out slowly and relax. You can rid yourself of incessant back and neck pain forever by performing this asana regularly.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.